Good evening. It's 6:30 p.m. September 11th, 2019, in the meeting of the Urban Design. We'll come to order. May I have a roll call?
Nicole Ream.
Here.
Monica Sullivan.
Here.
Jerry Winchester.
Here.
Melissa Morse.
Present.
Edith McKee.
Here.
Carla Baxley.
Here.
Art Clark.
Here.
Barbara Cash is excused. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we officially begin the meeting, we would like to take a moment to remember and honor the innocent men, women, and children who lost their lives 18 years ago, including those who fought for those lives and their families. If we could please take a moment and observe a moment of silence. Thank you for that. I guess from that point, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. May we have a motion to approve the minutes from August 14th, 2019? Looks like we have a motion from Commissioner Morse and a second from Commissioner Sullivan. Are there any objections or corrections to the minutes?
No.
Seeing and hearing none, the minutes are approved. Moving on to item C, special order of business. Are there any disclosures this evening? Commissioner Morse.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to disclose that I previously worked for one of the petitioners, Larson Consulting Group. It is in reference to case 2019-0115. I have not worked for them for approximately 6 years, nor do I see any conflict. I just wanted to disclose.
Okay, I don't know that we need a motion, but in the order of, if anybody has any objections, I think we can order her to participate on that case. I don't think she has any financial interest. Okay. Commissioner McKee.
In regards to case number 2019-0116, I was the engineer of record for East 88th Avenue, but I have no relationship with the petitioner and have no conflict of interest.
I'm sorry, Commissioner McKee, did you say that you have a relationship with the petitioner?
I have no relationship with the petitioner. I was the engineer of record for the redesign of 88th Avenue.
On the same thing, I think that unless anybody has any objection, that we can order Commissioner McKee to participate. Okay. You will participate. Moving on. Wow, we have nothing on the consent agenda, so we're moving on to public hearings. I will read the procedure by which the public may speak to the Urban Design Commission. And it is as follows. Number one, after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Number 2, persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Urban Design Commission Rules of Procedure. 2A, petitioners, including all of his or her representatives, have 10 minutes. Rebuttal by the petitioner may be allowed when time has been reserved. Item 2B, representatives of groups such as community councils, PTAs, etc., have 5 minutes. And item 2C, individuals have 3 minutes. Number 3, when your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the Commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the Commission. Item 4, an individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Urban Design Commission takes except Commission recommendations to the Assembly which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed with the Clerk's Office within 20 days after approval by the Urban Design Commission of the resolution, which is the Commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at the time of filing. With that being said, before us we have Case 2019-0116. Petitioner Deanna Crabb is before us. May we have the staff's presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The petitioner is applying for a variance from AMC 2107-080H3 to allow a fence taller than allowed by code in the front and secondary front setback on the east and south property boundaries. Title 21 limits fences up to 4 feet in height when the fence is within the front setbacks. The fence will not be in the clear vision triangle. This request is being sought as the owner wishes to construct a 6-foot fence along East 88th Avenue and an 8-foot fence along Elmore Road. The owner seeks the variance to construct the fence for a privacy barrier to foot and vehicle traffic, noise, and headlight glare. The applicant had originally requested the 8-foot fence along Elmore Road, which is the property's front yard. East 88th Avenue is considered a secondary front yard, and the owner could not apply for director approval of a 6-foot high fence in the secondary front setback as the property takes direct access to the street. Therefore, the owner is requesting this variance to the 2 sides of the property. On August 16, 2019, the Planning Department mailed a total of 130 public hearing notices. There were 3 letters of support received to granting the variance, and 1 letter was written with concerns about the clear vision triangle at the intersection. In the matter of the standards for 2103-240G approval, Standard A has been met. The proposed alternative achieves the intent of the subject design standard. The owner is requesting the variance to construct a fence, which is common in this neighborhood. Elmore Road is classified as an arterial, and East 88th is classified as a collector. Standard B has been, the department finds Standard B has been met. The granting of the variance will not change the classification of this parcel in the comprehensive plan, but is rather reinforcing the intent of single-family districts. A fence is a common amenity in a residential neighborhood, and this project will be compliant with the policies of the Anchorage 2040 plan, specifically Land Use Policy 4.4, which encourages property owners to preserve properties in a way that minimizes housing displacement and maintain health and safety for residents. The department finds Standard C has been met. The proposed variance will benefit the community that is equivalent to or better than compliance with the subject standard. Given the classification of the roadways, they see high levels of traffic which create noise and headlight glare from in-street traffic. Standard D has been met. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the use of adjacent property. There are no structure separation violations. Drainage and runoff do not appear to be an issue in this neighborhood, and clear vision triangles do not appear to be affected. There is no public benefit to denying either variance when there is no practical effect to be gained. Standard E has been met. The variance will not change the character of the R1A district where this project is located or permitted use not otherwise permitted in the district. This requested variance before us is dimensional and not a use variance. Staff finds Standard F has been met. The granting of this variance would not restrict or impede ADA accessibility. Standard G has been met. The granting of this variance will not adversely affect the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the municipality. Traffic engineering does not object to the granting of both variances, and an 8-foot fence protects the property owner from vehicles as well as noise and headlight glare. Standard H has been found to be met. The variance does not involve a sign. Therefore, staff finds that all standards A through H are substantially met and recommends approval of the variance subject to the 4 conditions found on page 7. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the petitioner's here as well tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, will the petitioner please come forward? Hi. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Yes, Madam Chair, my name is Deanna Crabb, D-E-A-N-N-A-C-R-A-B-B.
Thank you. And then if you would like to reserve any of your 10 minutes for rebuttal?
Sure. Do I have to?
You don't have to, but if you set a time, then we can stop the clock, or you can reserve the time you have remaining without that. It's up to you.
Okay. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Proceed.
Okay. For the record, my name is Deanna Crabb, and the address is 4115 East 88th Avenue. I appear before you today to request a fence height variance on my property along Elmore Road and East 88th Avenue. I am requesting an 8-foot fence along Elmore and a 6-foot fence along East 88th. I feel that the fences would decrease the traffic, light, and noise pollution, along with giving us privacy from all the foot and bicycle traffic along the busy streets. Our home sits in a depression, and the allowed 4-foot fence would be below the sidewalk, thus giving us no privacy from vehicle or pedestrian traffic. I would like to urge your support for this fence variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Looks like we do have a question. Commissioner Morse?
Thank you, Chair. 2 questions. Based on the photos and the timing of when those photos were taken, could you clarify to me, is the fence currently constructed?
The fence is not constructed. We did put the posts in before we knew that it was in non-compliance.
Okay. Well, then the second one is not important. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Okay. We're now going to open it to public testimony. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak? No one? There's a lot of people in the audience. Do you wish to speak? Okay, come forward, please. Go ahead and state your name, spell for the record. And you have 3 minutes.
I'm Jennifer Holtz, Jennifierholt, and I'm a neighbor. I live across the street from them, and I agree 100% that they should definitely be able to build that fence because we too live in a divot. And like she said, even if we build an 8-foot fence, there's nothing that stops the traffic, the noise, and everything like that. So just fully support. So
excellent. Commissioner McKee, did you have a question for this speaker? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward to testify? Okay. No one? I think we have some questions for the petitioner, so you can go ahead and come back up, Ms. Crabb. Commissioner McKee?
I was going to speak for a point of order to the rest of the commission, and that's that the approach at 88th, and I'm speaking to the comment regarding concern for sight distance, is that the landing on 88th was reconstructed as part of the 88th project to be the 30-foot at 2% to guarantee the sight distance. So the sight distance needs are met even if they were to construct an 8-foot fence along Elmore, and that their property does sit in a depression from both 88th and from Elmore.
Well, thank you, Commissioner McKee.
Thank you.
Commissioner Morse?
Thank you, Chair. This is sort of directed towards staff. Our package seems to clearly state that the fence would not be in the site triangle for the corner. However, I didn't, as a reviewer, have any documentation to check that myself. I do see that one of the 4 recommendations is to have a plot plan that shows the clear vision triangle. I'm just asking for future, is this something that these cases will be coming forward without all of the information to review them? So I'm fine taking staff word as truth. It's just one of those things we normally see a plan.
Through the chair, Ms. Morse, each variance is kind of case by case. Some we see where they've constructed something, and therefore we'll ask for an as-built to see that. The fence is not constructed. That's why we made it a condition that they make sure they meet with traffic and right-of-way to make sure that that fence is not put in the clear vision triangle, and that they submit to us an as-built after they build it that shows that it is not, to guarantee that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Winchester.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So are you related to the Mike Crab family that owned that? Okay, for years ago. I actually was born and raised on 88th Avenue.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. And your property never used to be in the hole quite that it is today. The roads were a lot lower.
Yeah, they were lower.
So it is a big issue, and I can appreciate what's happened there on your property.
Thank you.
So, yeah, say hello to Mike for me.
I will.
Commissioner Morse.
One more time, just for fun. Deanna, have you reviewed the 4 department recommendations from the municipality?
Yes,
And
I
Are you
have.
comfortable with those 4 recommendations being required if we were to go forward with this variance?
Yes, I am. Let me, I can think of 3 right now. So,
Would you like me to read?
yeah, please read those.
So variance from AMC 2107-080H3 to allow an 8-foot fence in the front setback and a 6-foot fence in the secondary front setback along East 88th. We would provide an updated plot plan that shows the location of the fence and the clear vision triangle. So number 1 is informational. Number 2 is a requirement. Number 3, resolve with on-site water and wastewater necessary documentation for approval and use of the wastewater and well permit. And then prior to the variance becoming effective, a notice of zoning shall be filed with the State of Alaska District Recorder's Office, including a site plan and a copy of the resolution of approval. So it is just the 3 requirements.
Okay.
That's how I read it, staff. Okay, number 1 is informational. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Clark.
Just for clarification, the concern that Commissioner Morse had about the traffic triangle was the line of sight from 88th down Elmore, is that correct?
Correct, looking to the north.
Right, and it seems to me that the picture that we have on page 21 with the already put in place fence posts gives us a pretty clear indication that that's not going to be an issue.
I think it's hard to tell from a still photograph about an approach, and a plan is more typically seen in these variance requests, in my experience. So I was clarifying with staff mostly that this one is harder to review without the plan, but asking for a definitive plan that allows a clear vision triangle as a recommendation is seems sufficient to me.
And to clarify, it was a comment from traffic
Okay.
requiring that. Okay, I think there are no more questions. I don't see any questions for staff or the petitioner. Don't think we needed to use your time for rebuttal today,
Okay.
unless you would like to.
Well, I just want to say thanks. And to the staff at the Muni, they were awesome. I went in a little scared, and they really made my experience, pleasant, helpful. It was awesome. All the guys, even Carly. So thank you.
They do make our experience pleasant as well. We do thank them. Thank you guys very much. Okay. So if there are no more questions, the public hearing is now closed. I guess we need a motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Morse and a second from Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Morse, would you care to state your motion, please?
I would move to approve case 2019-0116, design variance from AMC 2107-080 H3 to allow a fence on the east and south property boundaries to exceed the maximum height requirements. With conditions 1 through 4 found on the staff packet. Would you like me to read them? Okay. Okay. My findings for the case align with the staff. One second. The findings 21030-240G, the approval criteria were met, letters A through H. There were no gray areas as far as meeting the variance criteria. I will note that there are neighbors in the audience that were also in favor of building this fence, so it is a specific topography issue that didn't align with the standard code. I would like to add that the petitioner dealt with the public process very well, so thank you for your patience on that. I know it can be surprising to be stopped mid-project, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Winchester, would you care to speak to your second?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I intend to support the motion. I think this clearly states and clearly stated that there's no objection, and it meets all the criteria, approval criteria required, and meets the intent of the type of facility process that we're looking for. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, I think we need to go ahead and have a vote. The motion passes. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you all.
Moving on to our second case this evening, case 2019-0115, Dwight Barfield from the New Testament Christian Churches of America is before us. May we have the staff's presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The petitioner is applying for a variance from Anchorage Municipal Code, Title 21, Chapter 5, subsection 040C2B, 3 Roman numeral, traffic access to allow a religious assembly to have direct vehicular access to a local street, which would be Old Harbor Avenue, instead of a road classified as a collector or grader. They are also applying for a variance from Anchorage Municipal Code, Title 21, Chapter 5, subsection 040C2B, Roman numeral 5, buffering standards to provide a 6-foot site obscuring fence in lieu of L2 buffer landscaping along a portion of the western property line. The additional variance would be from Anchorage Municipal Code, Title 21, Chapter 7, subsection 080E1, Table 2107-2, minimum site perimeter landscaping by abutting district or street to provide a 6-foot site obscuring fence in lieu of L2 landscaping along a portion of the eastern property line. The Planning Department has evaluated the application and presents the following findings. For Standard A, the standard is generally met. Religious assemblies are required to take access from a street classified as a collector or grader in accordance with Anchorage Municipal Code. Given the immediate proximity of this site to Muldoon Road, a Class 3 major arterial, there will be minimal vehicular traffic impacts to residences along Old Harbor Avenue. Old Harbor Avenue dead ends west of the petition site. The vast majority of visitors to this site will be doing so by accessing the site from Muldoon Road and quickly turning into the subject parcel. The distance from the petition site to Muldoon Road is approximately 150 feet. There is minimal anticipated traffic originating from the residences along Old Harbor Avenue or the surrounding neighborhood network to the west. Because of these factors, this site will ultimately be taking access from a major arterial and thus will meet the standards of Anchorage Municipal Code to the same degree. L2 landscaping is required to be installed along the western and eastern property lines by both Anchorage Municipal Code, Title 21, Chapter 5, subsection 040C2B, Roman numeral 5, buffering standards, and Anchorage Municipal Code, Title 21, Chapter 7, subsection 080E1, Table 2107-2, minimum site perimeter landscaping by abutting district or street. Due to the placement of the existing structure and the need to develop additional parking facilities to accommodate this planned use, there is a lack of available space to provide full-width L2 landscaping along the entirety of the west and east property lines. Along the western edge of the property, the existing structure is located 5.7 feet from the property boundary. This is in compliance with R1 setbacks, but will not provide enough physical space to locate a 10-foot wide planting bed and site-obscuring fence to meet L2 standards. In lieu of landscaping, the applicant will be providing a 6-foot site-obscuring fence along the entire western property line and will be installing L2 landscaping where possible. This will result in approximately 60-foot void along the existing structure where the only screening provided would be from a site-obscuring fence. It is unlikely that the space where there won't be landscaping installed will be used for congregation by visitors. Thus, there should be minimal activity to screen from view from neighbors to the west, and a 6-foot site-obscuring fence should meet the intended purpose of the subject standard to screen eye-level views into the subject parcel. Along the eastern boundary, the existing structure is located approximately 28 feet from the lot line of the parcel. Due to the higher parking demand of a religious assembly as compared to a single-family home, it is necessary for the applicant to develop additional parking facilities for members of their congregation beyond what can be currently accommodated with the current driveway. This necessitates the development of parking facilities to be located behind the existing structure and paved vehicular circulation areas to provide access to those facilities. This will result in a lack of full L2 landscaping being provided along approximately 180 feet of the eastern property line. A 6-foot site-obscuring fence will be installed along the entire property line to screen eye-level views from abutting properties. The subject parcel abuts a commercial use, which is an existing restaurant, along the eastern property line, which is zoned B1A. L2 landscaping is intended to screen site operations and provide a visual barrier between potentially non-compatible uses. Given the difference in peak business hours noticed at this abutting use, it is unlikely that a partial lack of full L2 landscaping will cause adverse impacts to this neighboring property. As with the western property line, a 6-foot site-obscuring fence should meet the intended purpose of the subject standard to screen eye-level views into the subject parcel. For Standard B, the standard is met. This parcel is classified as a single-family and two-family within a transit-supportive development corridor in the 2040 Anchorage Land Use Plan map. The granting of this variance will not change the classification of this parcel in the comprehensive plan. The property will continue to be used as a single-family home to house congregation staff, which will preserve a residential component to this parcel. In addition, it is compatible with Goal 7 of the Anchorage 2040 Land Use Plan. For Standard C, the standard is met. The granting of this variance will allow for the use of the site as a religious assembly and as a gathering point for community members. Site development considerations are being taken to minimize the negative impacts surrounding residential uses. The majority of services will be held on Sunday. However, intermittent small group services may be held Monday through Friday. To improve the property's curb appeal, L1 visual enhancement landscaping will be installed along the frontage of Old Harbor Avenue, and approximately half of the existing pavement in the front yard will be removed and replaced with turf grass. Full-width L2 landscaping will be installed where possible, and a 6-foot site-obscuring fence will be installed along the entirety of the west and east lot lines. This screening will provide an adequate visual barrier to screen site operations from adjoining properties. Given the site's close proximity to a major arterial, quick vehicular access is provided without the need to pass through the established neighborhood. Fixed route public transportation is available on 15-minute headways within a quarter mile of the petition site. For Standard D, the standard is met. The granting of this variance is unlikely to adversely affect the use of adjacent property, considering the proposed development characteristics to mitigate the site's impacts. It is recognized that the amount of traffic accessing this site will be much higher than that of a single-family home. However, most vehicles accessing this site will be doing so without passing through the established neighborhood along Old Harbor Avenue. The petition site is the first residential property accessed off of Muldoon Road, and Old Harbor Avenue is a dead-end street. Thus, pass-through traffic through Old Harbor Avenue is not anticipated. The lack of landscaping along sections of the western and eastern property boundaries will result in an inconsistent screening pattern. However, these lot lines will be screened using a 6-foot high site-obscuring fence where the site cannot physically accommodate full L2 landscaping. This will assist to screen eye-level views into the petition site from adjoining properties. Due to the small size of the facility, it is physically constrained on the number of congregation members it can safely accommodate due to fire safety occupancy limits. The amount of required off-street parking spaces necessary is based upon occupancy limits. This limitation will be, in theory, assist in preventing excessive overflow parking onto adjacent rights-of-ways and neighboring properties. For Standard E, the standard is met. This variance will not change the character of the R1 district where this project is located, nor will it permit a use not otherwise permitted in the district. Religious assemblies are permitted within the R1 district subject to the approval of an administrative site plan review, and the petitioner will have to obtain this additional approval prior to beginning operations. And Standard F, the standard is met. This granting of this variance will not restrict or impede ADA accessibility or reasonable accommodation. Compliant ADA parking spaces and accessible routes will be provided at the petition site when the property is converted to a religious assembly. And Standard G, the standard is met. The granting of this variance will not adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of the people of the municipality. Vehicular and pedestrian access will come from Muldoon and will likely not be passing through Old Harbor Avenue. Noticeable increases in traffic volume along Old Harbor Avenue are not anticipated, given the existing road network in the immediate neighborhood. The site will be screened to the best extent possible along the western and eastern property lines using a combination of landscaping and site-obscuring fencing. And Standard H, the standard is met, and this variance does not involve a sign variance request. So given those findings, the Planning Department recommends approval of this variance subject to the conditions as stated on pages 10 and 11 of the staff packet. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Morse?
Can you refresh? Thank you, Chair. Can you refresh my memory? There are 3 variances listed, but we can vote on them as one?
Through the chair, that's correct. You can either vote as them as one, or if there's disagreement on each of those variance requests, you can break them apart as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff, for your presentation. Doesn't look like we have any further questions for staff, so will the petitioner please come forward? And please state your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Stephen Callahan, STEVEN-CALLAGHAN.
Thank you. And then you do have 10 minutes for your presentation, which you can reserve some of that time for rebuttal if you feel you'd need it. Do you want to reserve some time?
I'll just reserve the remaining time.
Okay. Okay. Well, then proceed, please.
Madam Chair, in a nutshell, this is the petitioner wants to put a church in a residential area. There's an existing building. We're applying for variances to some of the site improvements, specifically landscaping, as well as the access to the Old Harbor Avenue. We agree with the staff's recommendation, their recommendations regarding this variance.
That's it?
That's it.
Excellent. Okay. I see we have questions. Commissioner Winchester.
Madam Chair, sir, just a really quick question. There were several advisory comments that were put forward by the staff related to watershed management, private development, and traffic department that probably are going to need to be resolved at some point. And it's always nice to make sure you know about those and pretty much are in agreement with those. Not that they're part of this action, but I just was curious. Have you seen those?
Yes, I've spoken to traffic specifically about this project and some of their concerns. We have a site plan in the packet, and I'm sure there'll have to be some modifications to the site plan. However, traffic generally agreed with the layout of the site. They specifically wanted one of the entrances removed, and there were two entrances originally to the site. They wanted one entrance removed and basically a two-way access, single entrance. So we have been working with them, and flood hazard, apparently, their portion of the southerly portion of the property is in a flood hazard zone, and that'll have to be addressed as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. Is there anybody else who wishes to ask questions of the petitioner? Looks like we have no further questions, so thank you. We will now open the hearing to public testimony. Is there anyone who wishes to testify? Hi. Please state your name and spell it for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Joseph Bear, Joseph Bear. My family has lived in the neighborhood since 1958, I believe. Two concerns, and I don't know if I agree or not with this at all, but my concerns are it is a residential street. It's a kind of unique neighborhood. They're 1 acre lots. And will bringing in a church assembly impact it greatly, and how far into the neighborhood will these variances go? How deep into the neighborhood? That's one concern. My second concern is that with the traffic, the exit out of Old Harbor is a right turn only. You can't turn left out of it. Everyone has to turn right. If you want to go left, you have to go through the neighborhood, which is you head west, you take a right or north on Creekside and go 2 streets down to 6th Avenue, and from 6th you go east again to a light, traffic light. And that's the only way you can go left out of the neighborhood, unless you take the right and do the illegal or questionable U-turns through the limited turn lanes. So those are my 2 concerns. It's, is it really a residential still neighborhood? And then the exiting, it's not a dead-end street. Well, it doesn't go through, but it does weave around through other neighborhoods, and people exit through those. So the impact of traffic as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we may have a question for you. Commissioner Winchester might have a question.
Sure.
So are you aware of the actual occupant load that the church is proposing to have? I mean, I know you understand there's probably traffic impact, but,
right.
Is it 20, 40, 100 people?
I don't know what the size is. It sounded, he was very nice. He came to our house. I appreciate that. And,
sure.
And again, I just don't know the answers to that. I don't know. You'd have to ask.
I was just curious if you had gotten to that far of knowing.
No,
okay.
No. And that's a great question because.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll ask.
Can you turn back the clock after it? You find out it's too many. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Any other?
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Looks like we are no longer into testimony. So would the petitioner like to use their remaining time for rebuttal?
Madam Chair, I just want to address the occupancy. Right now, the occupancy is anticipated to be maximum 100 people. And the calculation would be 1 parking space per 5 occupants. The plan is to have approximately 20 spaces on the site. The actual occupancy, more realistically, would probably be around 60 to 70 people on a Sunday at one of the larger congregations on the weekends. And then during the week, the occupancy would be substantially less, 20 to 30 people.
Thank you. Is that all?
That's all.
Okay, are there any questions for the petitioner or staff? No? Okay. The public hearing is now closed. May we have a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Winchester and a second from Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Winchester, will you please state your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move for approval of case number 2019-0115, New Testament Christian Churches of America, variance from AMC 2105-040C-2B3, and what was the other one? Oh, AMC 2105-040C.2B4, and AMC Table 2107-2, all three. I intend to support this motion. I think this is the staff has done an excellent job of reviewing this particular case in terms of its proximity to Muldoon Road, dealing with traffic and other issues. It is an allowable occupancy in this particular zoning district, and I think that they've done a lot in terms of the site planning, landscaping, and other items to resolve some of the issues that relate to adjacent properties. One, of course, adjacent property is already a business, and in terms of putting in the fences, I'll leave the, okay, sure. So I guess if I want to run through some of the findings, certainly can, and then I'll pick up those. The department recommendations, let me start there. I want to include department recommendations 1 through and 2, which allow for this to occur, and then of course the zoning action has to be recorded. And also want to address the advisory comments. I think that all three of these are good comments, and the petitioner has already said that they are addressing those, the traffic department, the private development issue, and the watershed management issues, and those will be worked out with staff, and certainly with the MOA departments of watershed management and the traffic engineering and the private development area in terms of construction of the roadway. I do want to say the fact that they have eliminated one of the driveways is a major component. It's effectively changing the way that this property will be used and approached from the street. Stepping back, I think that the findings under 2103-24G approval criteria A, the standard is met. This particular one, religious assemblies are required to take access from a street classified as a collector. They're only one lot off the collector, and that happens to be a business property at this time. And then they'll be back to that collector. And yes, it is a right turn lane on Muldoon, but that at least gives them direct access both to and from Muldoon Road. I won't get into all of the various pieces of that particular one in terms of the edge conditions and the screening and the eye level and the abutting properties, but I agree with the staff's recommendations. According to proposed alternative, standard number B, the proposed alternative achieves the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. Standard is met. This parcel is classified as single family and two family within a transportive development corridor. 2040 plan allows this, and I think that meets the goals, specifically goal 7, a comparable land use. Proposed alternative results, item number C, the proposed alternative results benefits to the community that are equivalent or better than compliance with the subject standard. The standard is met. Granting this variance allows for use of the site as a religious assembly and gathering point for the community members. As the petitioner has stated, it's a Sunday predominantly item, 60 to 70 people, maximum 100 is going to be the occupancy probably of the building when they get down to the actual configurations with the municipal approval. Standard D, the variance is granted will not adversely affect the use of adjacent property as permitted under this code. The standard is met. The granting of this variance is unlikely to adverse any of the local community. It's a quiet neighborhood, but it's also a quiet use with just small meetings of 20 to 30 people during the week. Item number E, the variance, if granted, does not change the character of the zoning district. Property is located, the standard is met. R1 district does allow for this particular occupancy, and with adjacent commercial uses already, this fits very well within the code requirements. Item F, persons with disabilities are provided with access as required by American Disabilities Act. The standard is met. They are going to be providing ADA accessible and accommodation to the facility. Item G, the variance is granted does not adversely affect the health and safety and welfare of the people of the municipality. Standard is met. Granting of this variance will not adversely affect the health and safety and welfare of the people of the municipality. Vehicular and pedestrian access will come from Muldoon Road predominantly, and will not likely be passing through Old Harbor Avenue unless someone does decide, as we heard, there's a potential that somebody could go through the neighborhood to try to turn left on Muldoon Road. But I think there can be some things that the church can do itself in terms of assisting its people to get on and off Muldoon Road and encouraging them to turn right as they go out. Evaluating request for variance from the maximum sign height, this is met. This variance doesn't involve a sign. I just want to speak, briefly. I believe that this type of infill use in this type of community and in an area is really what the Over 2040 plan and the municipality of Anchorage is looking for, where we are looking for these types of activities to find their way into and adjacent to major arterial roads and adjacent to existing commercial properties without actually moving people adversely and far into our residential neighborhoods. So I think it's a good project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. I do see that we have staff that needs to speak. Would you mind if I close the loop on the motion first? Okay. Okay. Commissioner Clark, would you care to speak to your second?
Yes, I intend to support the motion as well. I agree with Mr. Winchester that all these items have been met. I think it's a good use of the land. I don't think it's going to have a massive negative effect on the surrounding neighborhood. And of course, it's just difficult for them to get anyplace else from this lot, so it's better to be turning there than it is someplace else. So I do intend to support the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. Okay, Mr. Yell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It would just be a request if the commission would entertain amending condition number 2 of the department recommendations only to delete the words "a site plan and." So the only thing that they would have to record would be that notice of zoning action and a copy of the resolution. And the only reason I would request that is this property will have to do an administrative site plan review following the potential approval of this variance, and that site plan may change. So if we record a site plan as it exists today with this resolution approval, I would just don't want that variance approval to become null and void down the line if that site plan changes. So, thank you.
Did everybody get that? He would like to have us amend the motion to remove a site plan and from condition 2.
So we're basically removing site plan and,
Site plan.
okay,
So it'll just say.
okay. I'm totally in favor of that because you're exactly right. This is not a final site plan, and it is likely to get amendments in order to deal with water, with specifically the three issues: private development, watershed, and traffic. And those are not dealt with yet. So we appreciate that, but we do, I think, as a UDC, understand that the site plans we receive are not final. So, but I'm in agreement.
Thank you, Commissioner Winchester. Commissioner Morse, would you like to speak before we amend?
Are we voting on this amendment?
We are.
That was
I will-
my findings
we're-
of facts.
Okay. So can I get a motion to amend the motion on the floor? Commissioner Morse has made a motion, and Commissioner Clark has seconded. Commissioner Morse, would you please state your amended motion?
The entire motion or the amendment? Okay. It's just the amendment. Okay. I move to amend the original motion to strike a site plan and out of Department Recommendation 2 so that the petitioner only needs to file a notice of zoning action with the State of Alaska District Recorder's Office, including a copy of the resolution of approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Morse. Did you have anything to add, Commissioner Clark? Your second? Okay, thank you. Can we get a vote on the amendment? Okay, the amendment passes. So now the main motion is back on the floor. So we can go to a vote?
I wanted to add some findings.
You want to add findings? Okay. Oh, you're still speaking. Thank you, Commissioner Morse. Please add your findings.
Thank you. So convenient. I wanted to add findings noting that department findings A through G of 2103-240G approval criteria were very thorough. It did address all three variances, and all three variances met all standards A through H. Additionally, I would like to add that the reduction of 2 one-way driveways to 1 two-way driveway does seem to improve traffic flow for the Old Harbor Road, and reducing traffic closer to the residential portion of that road to the west. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Morse. Are there any other findings? No findings? Then I think we are voting on the main motion. And that motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that was our last public hearing for the evening. And are there any reports from Commission? I have nothing else to add this evening. On that, can I get a motion to, Lori, did you want to speak?
Through the chair, I just want to mention there are no cases next month to be heard, so
Okay.
you have the month off.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn? Moved by, or a motion from Commissioner Clark and seconded from Commissioner Winchester. Is there any objection? Thank you.
See you in November.